The ultimatum, the observation deck of Stellar Station Harmony offered a view that should have inspired peace. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood before the massive viewport, watching distant stars pierce through the darkness of space. Behind her, the Grand Council chamber buzzed with alien voices, each species represented by their finest diplomats. The station itself was a masterpiece of Galactic Union engineering, built specifically for moments like this. Moments when civilizations stood at the crossroads between cooperation and conflict. Sarah turned from the viewport to face the assembled representatives. 12 alien species occupied the curved tiers of seating that rose toward the dome ceiling. Each delegation sat in environmental pods suited to their specific needs. The Kralix, towering beings of silicon-based biology, glowed faintly blue in their high-temperature chambers. The Yethrin floated in tanks of methane gas, their tentacled forms rippling with bioluminescent patterns. The Ordovics, insectoid warriors who had built their empire on military might, clicked their mandibles, and what she had learned was their expression of impatience. At the center of the highest tier sat Prime Arbiter Zelthon, a member of the Vaxari species. His kind had founded the Galactic Union 8,000 years ago, and they still considered themselves the rightful rulers of civilized space. His elongated skull and 4 eyes gave him an appearance that humans found unsettling, but Sarah had learned to read his expressions. Right now, Zelthon looked disappointed, as if a favored student had failed an important test. The chamber fell silent as Zelthon activated his translation device. His voice, rendered into perfect English by the neural interface in Sarah's ear, carried the weight of millennia. Commander Mitchell of Earth, you stand before this assembly for the third and final time. The Galactic Union has been patient with your species. We offered you membership, protection, and access to technologies that would advance your civilization by centuries. Yet humanity continues to reject our generous terms. Sarah kept her expression neutral. She had practiced this moment for months, running simulations of every possible scenario. Earth's future depended on what happened in the next hour. With respect, Prime Arbiter, the Galactic Union has not offered us membership. You have demanded our submission. A wave of noise erupted from the alien delegates. The Ordovic's warrior diplomat, General Crix, stood from his pod, his 4 arms gesturing sharply. Submission? We offer you a place in the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. We offer protection from the dangers that lurk in the dark spaces between stars. We offer knowledge that your primitive minds can barely comprehend. And you dare call this submission? Sarah had expected this reaction. The Galactic Union had operated on the same principles for thousands of years. Join us, follow our laws, surrender your independence, and in return receive the benefits of a stable galactic order. For most species, it was an easy choice. But humanity had not survived 2 world wars, countless conflicts, and the harsh journey to the stars by accepting easy choices. General Crix, Sarah said calmly, the terms you offered require Earth to dismantle our independent military, place Union observers in every major city, submit all technological development for Union approval, and limit our population growth to numbers determined by Union resource management protocols. You ask us to give up our right to defend ourselves, to govern ourselves, to decide our own future. That is not membership. That is colonization. Prime Arbiter Zelthon raised one of his 4 hands, silencing the chamber. Your species thinks in such limited terms, Commander. You see restriction where we offer structure. You see control where we provide guidance. The Galactic Union has maintained peace across 10,000 star systems for 8 millennia. Our methods work because we understand that younger species require direction, until they mature enough to truly contribute to galactic civilization. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. The condescension in Zelthon's tone was infuriating, but she had learned to channel her anger into focus. And what happens to species that refuse your direction? What happened to the Therox Collective when they rejected Union membership 50 years ago? The chamber fell absolutely silent. Sarah had touched on the one subject the Galactic Union never discussed publicly. The Therox had been a spacefaring species with colonies across 15 systems. They had refused Union membership, insisting on their independence. Within a decade, they had been reduced to a handful of primitive settlements on their homeworld, their technology mysteriously failing, their colonies abandoned, their civilization broken. Zelthon's 4 eyes focused on Sarah with an intensity that made her skin crawl. The Therox made poor choices, Commander. They aligned themselves with forces that threatened galactic stability. The Union was forced to take corrective action. Corrective action, Sarah repeated. Is that what you call destroying an entire civilization? A new voice entered the conversation. Ambassador Lyria of the Sirenth Confederation leaned forward in her environmental pod. The Sirenth were one of the few species in the Union that had maintained some semblance of independence, though Sarah suspected that was only because they had been members for so long that they had forgotten what true freedom meant. Lyria's species resembled great cats, and her golden eyes studied Sarah with what might have been sympathy. Commander Mitchell, Lyria said, her translated voice carrying a melodic quality. I understand your concerns. When my people joined the Union 3,000 years ago, we too struggled with the loss of certain freedoms. But we adapted. We learned. We grew to appreciate the stability and prosperity that Union membership provides. Your species is young, barely 200 years since your first spaceflight. Perhaps you simply need more time to understand what we are offering. Sarah appreciated Lyria's gentler approach, but the message was the same. Submit or suffer the consequences. She had hoped to find allies in the Galactic Union, species that might support Earth's right to independence. But after 3 months of diplomatic meetings, she understood the truth. The Union tolerated no true independence. Every member species had surrendered their sovereignty in exchange for the promise of peace and prosperity. Ambassador Lyria, Sarah said, humanity has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. We have built civilizations, destroyed them, and built them again. We have learned hard lessons about the cost of freedom and the price of submission. We have seen what happens when powerful empires demand compliance from smaller nations. It never ends well. Not for the empire, and certainly not for the nations that surrender their independence. General Crick slammed one of his 4 fists on the armrest of his pod. Enough of this philosophy. The Union has shown restraint with Earth for too long. Commander Mitchell, deliver your answer. Will humanity accept Union membership on our terms? Or will you choose the path of isolation and eventual extinction? This was the moment. Sarah had known it was coming, had prepared her response, had received her final instructions from Earth's unified command before leaving for this meeting. She thought of her daughter, now 15, growing up on Mars' colony. She thought of her brother, commanding a research vessel near Jupiter's moons. She thought of the 8 billion humans living on Earth, and the 3 billion more spread across the solar system and beyond. All of them depending on her to make the right choice. Prime Arbiter Zelthon, members of the Galactic Union, Sarah began, her voice steady and clear. I have been authorized to deliver Earth's final response to your ultimatum. Humanity rejects Union membership under your current terms. We will not dismantle our defenses. We will not submit to Union oversight. We will not surrender our independence. We seek friendship with the Galactic Union and all species represented here. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation on projects that benefit both our peoples and yours. But we will not submit to colonial rule disguised as membership. The chamber erupted in chaos. Alien voices overlapped, translation devices struggling to keep up with the flood of responses. Some delegates expressed outrage. Others shock, and a few, Sarah noticed, seemed almost relieved that someone had finally said what they perhaps had always wanted to say themselves. Zelthon stood, his tall form dominating the chamber even from the highest tier. Commander Mitchell, you speak with courage but without wisdom. The Galactic Union does not make threats lightly. If Earth refuses our terms, you will be classified as an independent hostile entity. All trade with Union members will be prohibited. Any Union ship entering human space will be authorized to use force in self-defense. Earth's colonies beyond your home system will be considered illegal settlements in Union-claimed territory. You will face economic isolation, military pressure, and eventual collapse. Is this truly the future you choose for your species? Sarah had expected these threats. Earth's strategic analysts had predicted every scenario, calculated every possible outcome. The numbers were not in humanity's favor. The Galactic Union commanded tens of thousands of warships. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Their industrial capacity dwarfed anything humanity could produce. In a straight military conflict, Earth would lose. But humanity had never been good at fighting straight military conflicts. Prime Arbiter, Sarah said, I want to make sure you understand what you are threatening. Earth did not come to this negotiation unprepared. We have spent the last 50 years since first contact studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We know about your reliance on centralized command structures. We know about the tensions between Union members, the species that joined willingly and those that were forced into membership. We know about the resistance movements on a dozen worlds that your official histories do not mention. Zelthon's expression shifted from disappointment to something harder. You speak of things you do not understand, Commander. Rumors and propaganda spread by malcontents who cannot accept the peace we have created. Perhaps, Sarah said, or perhaps the Galactic Union is not as stable as you claim. Perhaps your perfect peace is maintained through force and fear, rather than genuine cooperation. Perhaps that is why you are so insistent that humanity submit completely, rather than allowing us to remain independent partners. General Crix rose again, his four arms spreading wide in a gesture of aggressive intent. This is treason, Commander Mitchell. You come to this chamber under diplomatic protection, and you use that protection to insult the very civilization that has maintained galactic order for 8 millennia. The Union has been patient with Earth, but that patience has limits. Sarah turned to face Crix directly. General, humanity has a saying. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. The Galactic Union has made it impossible for Earth to remain independent through peaceful means. You have threatened economic isolation, military action, and the destruction of our colonies if we do not submit to your terms. You have left us no choice but to prepare for conflict. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. It was the silence of predators realizing their prey might have teeth after all. Sarah continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. I want to be clear about something. Humanity does not want war with the Galactic Union. We do not seek conflict with any species represented here, but we will not surrender our freedom to avoid conflict. Our ancestors fought and died for the right to govern themselves, to make their own mistakes, to chart their own course through history. We will not dishonor their sacrifice by giving up that freedom simply because a powerful empire demands it. Prime Arbiter Zelthon descended from his high tier, his environmental pod moving smoothly through the air until he hovered directly in front of Sarah. At close range, his four eyes studied her with an intelligence that spanned millennia. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, meant only for her, though the translation system ensured everyone in the chamber could hear. Commander Mitchell, you are making a terrible mistake. The Union does not wish to destroy humanity. We have no desire to see your species suffer, but we cannot allow your independence to become an example for other species who might question Union authority. We cannot let your defiance undermine 8,000 years of carefully maintained order. Please reconsider. Take our terms back to Earth. Convince your leaders that submission to the Union is not surrender but enlightenment. There is still time to avoid the consequences of your refusal. Sarah met Zelthon's alien gaze without flinching. Prime Arbiter, I want you to understand something about humanity. We are a young species, barely taking our first steps into the galaxy. But we are also a resilient species. We have survived ice ages and plagues, wars, and natural disasters. We have colonized every environment on our homeworld, from frozen tundras to scorching deserts. We have split the atom and walked on our moon. We have built machines that think and ships that travel faster than light. All of this we achieved while fighting amongst ourselves, while dealing with our own conflicts and divisions. She paused, letting her words sink in. Now imagine what humanity can achieve when we are united against a common threat. Imagine what we can become when every human across every colony and every system focuses on a single goal: survival against an empire that demands our submission. You think you are offering us enlightenment, Prime Arbiter, but from where we stand, you are offering us chains painted gold, and humanity has a long history of breaking chains. Zelthon stared at her for a long moment, then slowly returned to his high tier. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of finality. The Galactic Union Assembly will vote on the matter of Earth. If the vote is to classify humanity as an independent hostile entity, all the consequences I described will follow. Commander Mitchell, you have 3 local cycles to leave Stellar Station Harmony and return to your people. Use that time to send a message to Earth. Tell them what they face. Give them one final opportunity to reconsider. The vote will be held in 10 standard days. The fate of humanity rests on that vote. Sarah bowed slightly, a gesture of respect she did not feel, but that diplomacy required. Prime Arbiter, members of the Galactic Union, I will deliver your message to Earth, but I will also deliver my own message. I will tell them that we stood before the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known, and did not blink. I will tell them that we chose freedom over comfort, independence over submission, and our own path over the path laid out by others. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it with our heads held high and our spirits unbroken. She turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind her, the alien delegates began to murmur among themselves, processing what had just happened. As the doors sealed behind her, Sarah heard General Crix's voice rise above the others, demanding immediate military action against Earth. She heard Ambassador Lyria arguing for restraint, for more time to negotiate. She heard Prime Arbiter Zelthon calling for order and calm deliberation, but Sarah knew the truth. The time for negotiation had passed. The vote would go against Earth, and the Galactic Union would move to enforce their will on humanity. War was coming, and despite her brave words in the council chamber, she was terrified. Not for herself, but for everyone depending on her to have made the right choice. In her private quarters on the station, Sarah immediately activated her quantum communication link to Earth. The face that appeared on her screen was Admiral Richard Zhao, commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force. His expression was grim but unsurprised. "They rejected our terms," Sarah said simply. "We expected they would," Zhao replied. "Are you safe?" "For now. I have 3 days to leave the station. The Union will vote in 10 days on classifying Earth as a hostile entity. Then we have 10 days to finish our preparations," Zhao said. "Sarah, you did well. You gave them every opportunity for peace. What comes next is on them, not us." Sarah wanted to believe that, but the weight of what she had set in motion pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. "Admiral, are we really ready for this? The Union has thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, technology we barely understand. What if I just condemned humanity to extinction?" Zhao's expression softened slightly. "Sarah, 50 years ago when we made first contact with the Galactic Union, we realized immediately that we could never match their military power through conventional means. So we did what humanity does best. We innovated. We adapted. We found new ways to fight that they would never expect. You have not condemned us to extinction. You have given us the opportunity to show the galaxy what humanity can do when pushed to the edge. Now come home. Your daughter misses you and we have work to do." The communication link closed and Sarah was left alone with her thoughts. She looked out the viewport of her quarters at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth spun through the void, home to billions who had no idea their peaceful lives were about to change forever. Somewhere out there, the colonies humanity had built with sweat and sacrifice waited for news from the Galactic Union. Somewhere out there, the future of the human species hung in the balance. Sarah Mitchell activated her personal recording device and began to compose her final report to Earth Command. But she also began another recording, one that would not be sent immediately. This one was addressed to the Galactic Union, to be broadcast across all known frequencies when the time came. It would be Earth's final message before the shooting started, a message that would echo across the galaxy and make clear exactly who had chosen this conflict. "To the Galactic Union and all species within its authority," she began, her voice clear and steady. "This is Commander Sarah Mitchell of Earth. In 10 days, your assembly will vote to classify humanity as a hostile entity because we refuse to surrender our independence. When that vote passes, and it will pass, you will send your fleets against us. You will expect us to break under the weight of your superior forces. You will expect us to beg for mercy and accept any terms you offer. You are wrong." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Humanity did not want this conflict. We offered friendship, cooperation, and mutual respect. You demanded submission. You gave us a choice between freedom and survival. You assumed we would choose survival, but humanity has never chosen survival over freedom. Our history is written in the blood of those who made that choice, who looked at overwhelming odds and said, 'No, we will not submit.' You are about to learn why peaceful species, when given no other option, become the most dangerous warriors of all. You chose this conflict, not us. Remember that when the consequences begin." When peace fails, the vote took exactly 7 minutes. Commander Sarah Mitchell watched the holographic display in Earth's Strategic Command Center as one by one, the Galactic Union members cast their votes. 12 species, 12 votes, and 12 hands raised in favor of classifying Earth as an independent hostile entity. Not a single dissenting voice. Not even Ambassador Lyria, who had seemed sympathetic during the council meeting, voted against the measure. Admiral Zhao stood beside her, his weathered face showing no emotion as the results appeared. Around them, hundreds of military personnel worked at their stations, coordinating Earth's defenses across the solar system and beyond. The command center was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, shielded by layers of rock and advanced defensive systems that humanity had spent 50 years developing. "It is done," Zhao said quietly. "Broadcast the message." Sarah nodded to Lieutenant Commander James Park, who sat at the communications console. Park's fingers moved across the holographic interface, and suddenly Earth's final message began transmitting on every frequency known to the Galactic Union. Sarah's recorded words from 10 days ago echoed across the galaxy, reaching Union worlds, trade stations, military outposts, and colony settlements. Billions of beings would hear humanity's defiance. The response was immediate. Priority channels lit up with incoming transmissions from Union Command. General Crix's face appeared on the main display, his 4 arms gesturing with barely controlled rage. "This is an act of war, Commander Mitchell. The Union fleet is mobilizing. You have 48 hours to retract your message and submit to Union authority. If you refuse, we will begin military operations against all human holdings outside your home system." Sarah stepped forward, her image now broadcasting back to Union Command. "General Crix, Earth has retracted nothing. We stand by every word. Your 48-hour deadline is noted. Use that time to reconsider your course of action. Humanity will defend itself." Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "You cannot defend against what is coming. The Union fleet assembles as we speak, 2,000 warships from 8 species, the largest peacekeeping force mobilized in 3 centuries. Your colonies will be occupied. Your vessels will be destroyed. Your homeworld will be blockaded until you accept reality. This is your final warning." "General," Sarah replied calmly. "Humanity stopped taking warnings seriously when the Galactic Union made it clear that our only choices were submission or destruction. You have chosen this path. Now walk it and see where it leads." The transmission ended. Crix's image vanished from the screen, replaced by tactical displays showing the gathering Union fleet near the galactic core. Sarah watched as the enormous force began organizing into battle formations. 2,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything Earth could produce. It should have been terrifying. It was terrifying, but humanity had prepared for this moment. Admiral Zhao activated the command center's primary display, showing the entire solar system and humanity's 17 colony systems beyond. Red markers indicated known Union fleet positions. Blue markers showed human defensive installations, many of which the Union had no knowledge of. Green markers represented civilian populations that had already been evacuated to secure locations. "Status report," Zhao ordered. Captain Elena Vasquez, head of strategic operations, pulled up detailed tactical assessments. "Admiral, all defensive platforms are operational. Project Prometheus is ready for activation. The Colonial Defense Network reports full readiness across all 17 systems. Civilian evacuations are 93% complete. The remaining 7% are volunteers who insisted on staying to defend their homes." Zhao nodded slowly. "And the Hornets?" "Deployed and dormant as planned," Vasquez confirmed. 60,000 autonomous units seated throughout our territory and along projected Union approach vectors. They will remain undetectable until activation. Sarah listened to the report with mixed feelings. The Hornets were humanity's answer to the Union's numerical superiority. Small AI-driven weapons platforms that could remain dormant in space for years, powered down and invisible to most sensors. When enemy ships came within range, they would activate, attach themselves to target vessels, and detonate. It was a brutal weapon, one that violated multiple Union treaties on autonomous warfare. But as Sarah had told the Galactic Council, Earth was not a signatory to those treaties. "What about Project Prometheus?" Sarah asked. "Is Dr. Chen confident it will work?" Zhao's expression remained neutral, but Sarah detected a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "Dr. Chen says the theory is sound. Whether it works in practice against Union shielding technology remains to be seen. We will find out soon enough." The command center's main display suddenly flashed red. Lieutenant Commander Park turned in his seat, his face pale. "Admiral, we have incoming Union ships. Long-range sensors detect a fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Count as 300 vessels. They are not hailing. They are moving directly toward Proxima Colony." Sarah felt her stomach drop. Proxima Centauri was humanity's closest extrasolar colony, home to 2 million people. It was also the most heavily defended system outside of Sol. The Union was testing Earth's defenses, probing to see if humanity's brave words were backed by capability. Activate Proxima Defense Grid, Zhao ordered. Alert all vessels in the system. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. If Union ships enter defensive perimeter, destroy them. Across the command center, officers began implementing Zhao's orders. Sarah watched the tactical display as the situation at Proxima developed in real time. The Union fleet approached in standard formation, their ships massive and imposing even as digital representations. Against them, Proxima's defenses looked pitifully small. 8 human warships, 40 defensive platforms, and whatever surprises humanity had prepared. The Union fleet crossed into Proxima's outer defensive perimeter. Immediately, warning signals transmitted on all frequencies. Union vessels, you are entering sovereign human territory. Withdraw immediately or you will be fired upon. This is your only warning. The Union fleet did not respond. They continued their approach, weapons charging, shields at maximum. They expected token resistance that they could easily sweep aside. They expected humanity to realize the futility of fighting and surrender before the real battle began. They were wrong. Activate the Hornets, Zhao said quietly. Captain Vasquez entered the activation codes. Throughout the Proxima system, in the darkness between planets and moons, hundreds of dormant weapons platforms suddenly came to life. Their AI systems analyzed the tactical situation in microseconds, selected targets, and began moving. The Hornets were small, barely larger than a human, and they moved without traditional propulsion. Instead, they used gravitic drives that produced almost no detectable signature. The lead Union battleship, a massive Ordovix dreadnought named Relentless Victory, detected the first Hornet 30 seconds before impact. By then it was too late. The small platform attached itself to the dreadnought's hull, its magnetic grips finding purchase on the crystalline armor. 5 more Hornets joined it within seconds. Then they detonated. The explosions were not large by space warfare standards, but they did not need to be. The Hornets were designed to breach hull integrity and detonate inside, where a ship was most vulnerable. Relentless Victory shuddered as multiple hull breaches opened along its port side. Atmosphere vented into space. Internal systems failed. The great dreadnought, which had fought in a dozen Union campaigns over 3 centuries, began to list. All across the Union formation, similar scenes played out. Hornets swarmed like their namesakes, attaching to hulls and detonating. Union point defense systems struggled to target the small, fast-moving platforms. Shields designed to stop energy weapons and large projectiles offered no protection against small objects that attached directly to the hull. Union fleet is breaking formation, Park reported. They are attempting to withdraw. No, wait. Reinforcements are jumping in. Count is now 500 vessels. Admiral, they are committing significant forces to this engagement. Zhao studied the tactical display with the calm expression of a man who had planned for exactly this scenario. Activate defensive platforms. All warships engage at will. Let them see what humanity can do. The 8 human warships in Proxima orbit were smaller than Union vessels, but they had been designed with hard-learned lessons from human naval history. They did not try to match the Union's firepower directly. Instead, they used speed and maneuverability, striking from unexpected angles and withdrawing before the enemy could respond effectively. The destroyer Relentless, commanded by Captain Maria Santos, dove through the Union formation at maximum velocity. Her weapons officers launched a spread of missiles, each one guided by AI systems that had been training against simulated Union tactics for years. The missiles wove through space, avoiding point defense fire, and struck a Kralix cruiser's reactor housing. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash, its silicon-based hull fragmenting into millions of glowing shards. Direct hit, Santos reported over the command network. Kralix cruiser destroyed, continuing attack run, but the Union was adapting. General Crix, commanding the assault from his flagship Inevitable Justice, recognized the threat posed by humanity's unconventional tactics. His orders echoed across the Union fleet. All vessels, tight formation. Overlap defensive fields. Track and destroy autonomous weapons on approach. Heavy units target human warships with concentrated fire. The Union fleet tightened its formation, their overlapping shields creating a nearly impenetrable defensive barrier. Point defense systems began coordinating, tracking Hornets before they could reach the fleet. Human warships found themselves facing concentrated fire from dozens of Union vessels simultaneously. The frigate Yorktown took a direct hit from a Yethran plasma cannon. Its shields collapsed instantly. A second hit tore through the hull, detonating the ship's reactor. Captain John Park had just enough time to order evacuation before Yorktown exploded, taking 80 crew members with it. In Earth's Strategic Command Center, Sarah watched the tactical display with growing dread. The initial surprise had given humanity an advantage, but that advantage was eroding rapidly. The Union had lost 20 ships, but they still had overwhelming numerical superiority. And now they were fighting smart, adapting to human tactics. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez said quietly, "Proxima Defense Grid reports ammunition at 60%. Human warships are taking heavy damage. Captain Santos requests permission to withdraw." Zhao's jaw tightened. "Negative. All units maintain engagement. Activate Project Prometheus. It is time to show the Union what else we have been developing." Sarah had heard about Project Prometheus in classified briefings, but she had never seen it in action. The project was based on a theoretical understanding of Union faster-than-light technology, specifically how their ships manipulated spacetime to achieve superluminal travel. Dr. Lisa Chen, Earth's leading physicist, had theorized that if humanity could generate a similar spacetime distortion at a much smaller scale, they could create localized disruptions that would cripple Union vessels. Hidden throughout the Proxima system, buried in asteroids and disguised as civilian infrastructure, were 12 Prometheus generators. When activated simultaneously, they created intersecting fields of spacetime distortion. Union ships caught in these fields suddenly found their propulsion systems failing, their power distribution networks overloading, their shields collapsing. The effect was immediate and devastating. 50 Union vessels, including General Crix's flagship, went dark. Their systems crashed. Their crews struggled to restore power, and they drifted helplessly through space. Human warships and remaining Hornets immediately targeted the disabled vessels, striking before they could recover. General Crix watched his tactical displays die one by one. Emergency power restored minimal systems, but inevitable justice was crippled. Around him, his fleet was in chaos. This was impossible. Humanity should not possess technology capable of disrupting Union systems. They were a primitive species, barely 2 centuries into space travel. Yet they had just disabled a significant portion of his fleet, with weapons the Union did not even know existed. "All ships emergency withdrawal," Crix ordered, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Jump to Rally Point Delta. Retreat immediately." The Union fleet began jumping to faster-than-light travel, those ships that still could. They left behind 73 disabled or destroyed vessels and thousands of dead crew members. The first engagement between the Galactic Union and humanity had ended in a shocking human victory. In Earth's Strategic Command Center, a cheer went up from the officers and crew. Sarah allowed herself a small smile, but Admiral Zhao's expression remained grim. "Do not celebrate yet," Zhao said. "We won this battle because they underestimated us. They will not make that mistake again. Captain Vasquez, what are our losses?" Vasquez's expression sobered immediately. 3 warships destroyed, 2 heavily damaged. Proxima Defense Grid at 40% ammunition. Hornet stocks depleted by 70%. And Admiral, the Prometheus generators burned out after a single use. Dr. Chen warned this might happen. "The technology is still experimental." Zhao nodded slowly. "So we cannot use that tactic again. And the Union now knows we possess it. They will develop countermeasures. Our advantage lasted for exactly 1 battle." Sarah understood what Zhao was saying. Humanity had won the first engagement, but at a terrible cost. 3 ships and their crews were gone. Their best weapons were depleted or destroyed. And the Union had barely committed a fraction of their available forces. The main fleet, 2,000 ships strong, was still gathering near the galactic core. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "Now the Union recognizes that humanity is not a minor threat to be easily dealt with," Zhao replied. "They will commit more forces, use different tactics, and come at us with everything they have. And we will continue to defend ourselves with every weapon we possess, every trick we can devise, and every ounce of courage our species can muster." The tactical display updated, showing new Union fleet movements. They were repositioning, gathering their forces, preparing for a more coordinated assault. But something else was happening too. Across the galaxy, on dozens of Union worlds, Civilians were accessing the broadcasts of the battle at Proxima. They were seeing the mighty Galactic Union fleet retreat from a single human colony. They were hearing Earth's message about freedom and independence. They were beginning to ask questions. On the planet Siren Prime, Ambassador Lyria watched the battle recordings with growing unease. She thought about her own species' decision to join the Union 3,000 years ago. At the time, it had seemed like the right choice. The Sarenth had been a minor civilization, and Union membership offered protection and prosperity. But had they surrendered something essential in the process? Had they traded their freedom for comfort and forgot what it felt like to stand on their own? Lyria composed a private message to Commander Sarah Mitchell. It was a dangerous thing to do, potentially treasonous under Union law, but watching humanity fight so desperately for their independence had awakened something in her that she thought had died long ago. Commander Mitchell, her message began, I am Ambassador Lyria of the Sirenth Confederation. We met at the council meeting where you rejected Union membership. I voted against your species because that is what the Union expected of me. But I want you to know that there are those among us who admire what you are doing, who remember what it means to be free, who wonder if we made a terrible mistake 3,000 years ago. I cannot offer you military assistance, but I can offer you information. The Union's main fleet will strike at your colony in the Tau Ceti system in 72 hours. They believe it is your most strategically important holding outside your home system. Prepare accordingly, and know that you are not alone. Some of us are watching, hoping and remembering what we lost. The message transmitted through carefully encrypted channels, bouncing through a dozen relay stations before reaching Earth. When it arrived at Strategic Command, Admiral Zhao read it 3 times before showing it to Sarah. It could be a trap, Zhao said, feeding us false information to draw our forces out of position. Or it could be genuine, Sarah replied. An ally we did not know we had. Admiral, what if we are not just fighting for humanity's freedom? What if we are fighting for every species the Union has forced into submission over the last 8,000 years? What if our resistance inspires others to remember their own independence? Zhao considered this possibility. It was a dangerous hope to hold, but hope had always been humanity's most powerful weapon. If Lyria's information is accurate, we have 72 hours to prepare Tau Ceti's defenses. If it is a trap, we will have weakened our position elsewhere. Either way, we must choose. We reinforce Tau Ceti, Sarah said with certainty. If the Union wants to crush our spirit, they need to crush our largest colonies first. Tau Ceti makes strategic sense as a target, and if Lyria is genuine, we just gained our first ally in the Galactic Union. Admiral Zhao issued the orders. Ships and supplies began moving toward Tau Ceti's system. Defenses were reinforced. Volunteers from Earth traveled to join the colonial defenders. And humanity prepared for the second battle in a war that would determine their future. 72 hours later, exactly as Lyria had warned, the Union's main fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Tau Ceti system. 2,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in 3 centuries, facing a human colony of 5 million people defended by 20 warships and hastily reinforced defensive installations. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries, not because of who won or lost, but because of what it represented. Humanity, outnumbered and outgunned, refusing to surrender, fighting with courage and creativity that shocked even their enemies, using tactics the Union had never encountered, weapons they did not expect, and a determination that could not be broken. For 6 days, the battle raged. Human ships darted through the Union formation, striking and withdrawing. Remaining Hornets took a terrible toll on Union vessels. Civilian volunteers manning defensive platforms held their positions even as Union fire reduced their stations to debris. Children on Tau Ceti Prime hid in bunkers deep underground, while above them, the sky burned with falling wreckage from both sides. And across the galaxy, billions watched. They saw humanity's desperate struggle. They heard Earth's message about freedom and independence, and some began to wonder if the Galactic Union's perfect peace was worth the cost of their freedom. On the 7th day, with Tau Ceti's defenses nearly exhausted and human casualties mounting into the thousands, something unexpected happened. A small fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near the battle. 20 ships bearing the colors of the Sirenth Confederation. At their head, Ambassador Lyria's voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Ambassador Lyria of the Sirenth Confederation to all vessels in Tau Ceti system. The Sirenth formally withdraw from the Galactic Union. We stand with Earth, we stand with freedom. Union forces withdraw or face the consequences. The battlefield fell silent. No one had ever withdrawn from the Galactic Union. No species had ever defied the Union's authority once they had accepted membership. But Lyria had just done exactly that. And she was not alone. Over the next hours, 6 more species declared their withdrawal from the Union. Small civilizations, minor members that the Union had never paid much attention to. But together, they represented a crack in the foundation of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful institution. General Crix, watching from his repaired flagship, understood that something had changed. This was no longer a simple peacekeeping operation against a rebellious young species. This was the beginning of something larger, something that could tear apart the very structure of galactic civilization. All Union forces, Crix ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Withdraw from Tau Ceti system. Return to Union space. We need to reassess the situation. As the Union fleet retreated, Sarah Mitchell stood on the command deck of the orbital station above Tau Ceti Prime. Around her, exhausted defenders celebrated their survival. But Sarah was thinking about what came next. The war was not over. The Union would regroup, develop new tactics, return with even greater force. But now humanity was not alone. Now they had allies who remembered what freedom meant. She activated her communicator and began composing another message. This one to be broadcast across the galaxy to every species watching. To all civilizations, to all beings who dream of freedom, she began. The Galactic Union chose this conflict, not humanity. They demanded submission and we refused. They sent fleets to crush our resistance and we survived. They expected us to stand alone and we found allies. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. To every species that has surrendered their independence, to every civilization that wonders if peace is worth the cost of freedom, we say this: you are not alone. Stand with us. Remember what you lost. Together we can build a galaxy where cooperation is freely chosen, not enforced by threat of destruction. Together we can show the Galactic Union that their age of dominance is ending. Together we can choose our own destiny. The message transmitted across the galaxy, reaching worlds that had not heard such words in millennia, and in their hearts beings who had forgotten what freedom felt like began to remember. The Galactic Union had chosen this conflict, but humanity had chosen how it would end, not with submission, but with the birth of a new age where freedom would no longer be a forgotten dream, but a living reality worth fighting for. Admiral Zhao stood beside Sarah, looking out at the stars beyond the viewport. You realize what you have just started, he said quietly. The Union will not forgive this. They will not negotiate. They will fight to maintain their control over the galaxy. I know, Sarah replied, but we have shown that they can be resisted. We have proven that determination and creativity can overcome superior numbers. We have inspired others to stand with us. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it the way we have always faced impossible odds, together defiant and free. In the Strategic Command Center on Earth, tactical displays showed a changing galaxy. Union forces were repositioning, new alliances were forming, and the careful order that had lasted 8,000 years was beginning to fracture. The war between humanity and the Galactic Union would continue, but it was no longer a conflict about one species refusing to submit. It had become something larger, a fight for the future of galactic civilization itself. And at the center of it all stood humanity, young and inexperienced but unbowed. They had sent their final message to the galaxy. They had shown what they were capable of when given no choice but to fight. They had proven that peaceful species, when threatened with extinction, could become the most dangerous force in the universe. The Galactic Union had ignored Earth's warning. They had demanded submission and received defiance. They had expected easy victory and found brutal resistance. Now it was too late to go back. The conflict they had chosen would reshape the galaxy in ways no one could predict. And through it all, humanity would stand firm, bearing a torch of freedom that had nearly been extinguished but now burned brighter than ever before.